Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with another edition of Rudy's Common Sense. The last edition, we had a very interesting discussion with former FBI agent and assistant district attorney and adjunct professor and so many other things, Mark Ruskin, about really two things. The attack on the Bill of Rights, which now seems to be heating up tremendously, as well as the deterioration of the FBI and the double standard of justice. So, this is, and many other things are very disturbing to Americans. They see their form of government being challenged and in jeopardy. They certainly see their economic system of free enterprise under severe attack with this tremendous spending, highest in our history, more than we spent on wars in order to make America dependent. Certainly an assault on the work ethic that underlies a lot of what America is all about, and a very, very clear acceleration of the Marxist redistribution of wealth. Last year, we had 60% plus of the American people didn't pay federal income tax. That means the minority of our citizens paid the taxes to help, in that regard, the expenses of the government. And we're going more and more in that direction. We're going in the direction of a very, very redistributive system, and a very dependent system, having all the hallmarks of socialism, communism. And I get asked all the time, what can we do about it? How can we deal with this? This seems to be an express train to Marxism that Biden, or the people who control Biden, the ones who tell him what to say and what to do, the ones he freely acknowledges tell him what to say and what to do, they don't seem to be stopping at all. This is going straight ahead, both from the point of view of economics, to corruption of the criminal justice system, to deprivations of First Amendment rights, due process rights. I mean, all of this is happening all at once, and what can be done about it? Well, something's going on. So let's take a look at this for a second, a little deeper. Over the last 2 months, no president has had, as far as I can tell, a bigger decline in approval, disapproval shift than Biden. I mean, the numbers are astounding. He was just a short while ago 55% approved, 36% disapproved. This is the Fox poll, the one that came out last Friday. Now he's down to a majority, a little over a majority disapproval, 50.7, down to 43.4. That's a massive shift in about a 2-month period, 3-month period. Of course, you can't you can't have really imagined a period where more things could have gone wrong, or an administration could prove itself more incompetent, whether we're talking about Afghanistan or Bidensville and the border, or the way in which people with COVID are being spread all over the country, or the mandate wars that they've gotten into now with the police and with the military, or maybe of greatest importance, the war on parents. This shift in popularity is even more extraordinary because he has coverage that's virtually sycophantic. All you had to do is look at that town hall meeting the other day with Anderson Cooper, where as he was faltering and incoherent, Anderson Cooper was finishing the sentences for him and trying to keep him out of trouble. I mean, he tried to get him to not say that he was going to strike Taiwan, because apparently Anderson Cooper understands that violates the treaty. Biden didn't. Biden said it, and then embarrassingly, the State Department had to walk the president's statement back, which I guess just reaffirmed to Xi Jinping that our president is truly impaired. He made this bold statement that he was going to bring out the National Guard because of the supply chain crisis and other crisis that he and his Secretary of Transportation have completely ignored for months. And he said he'd bring out the National Guard to drive the trucks, only to have the White House have to correct that. He doesn't have the power to do that, nor would that be very wise to take people who are not skilled in driving long-haul trucks, which are complex to do and difficult, Putting them on the road would probably just end up killing more people, like the people he killed in Afghanistan through his negligence in not taking out the civilians before he took out the troops. I mean, that was purely idiotic. I can't imagine even what a lot of this you can trace back to the progression toward Marxism. It's just written all out for you. Written all out for you in books 150 years old, or some books, very current, including the agenda of the Black Lives Matter. A lot of the school difficulties is the agenda of the Black Lives Matter. But to take out the soldiers, the military, from a country that's surrounded by terrorists who hate America, and leave the civilians there, and then lie about the number that's there, which just came out in the last couple of days. I don't even see that as part of a communist or socialist or Marxist agenda. That just illustrates the complete, utter incompetence of this administration to the point of endangering lives. The same thing is true with the supply chain situation. I'm not sure that I'm not really sure that Buttigieg has returned from his paternity leave, and I don't know if it would much matter. I don't think he knows what to do. You can get a sense of how much the media gives him a break when he walks out and says, I was given a list of who I should call on.
I'll take your questions, and as usual, folks, they gave me a list of the people I'm going to call on. So, Jonathan, Associated Press. Ladies and gentlemen, they gave me a list here. The first person I was instructed to call on was Kelly O'Donnell of NBC.
Or I was instructed, or I'm going to get in trouble if I keep going. Now, I would say the best proof that this is a captured media, kind of like a modern day Pravda was to the Soviet Union, is the fact that none of them ever asked the question, who instructed you? Gosh, it's like a natural question. I don't know how you avoid it. First time he said it, I was given these questions. Who gave them to you? They'll be mad at me if I. Who are these people that are bossing around the President of the United States? We get a sense that he's not coherent. That isn't so difficult to see. All our adversaries see it too, and friends. But then to actually come out and tell us that somebody's bossing them around, it gives you a sense of the nature of the dementia. That's one of the symptoms, that you say inappropriate things. I mean, it's kind of inappropriate. Even if it's happening, somebody with his senses would tell you that he's being instructed by somebody else. It's a person that's kind of losing it, right? Let's take a short break. Big tech monitors us, censors us, deplatforms us. Conservatives have been helpless to do anything about it until now. On Gettr, you can talk with friends and family and express your political beliefs without fear of Silicon Valley liberals coming after you. Join Gettr, the social media platform that supports free speech and opposes cancel culture. Gettr is led by former Trump advisor Jason Miller, who saw what big tech did to President Trump and decided to fight back. Gettr is the fastest growing social media platform in history, with over 1.6 million users and growing, including prominent conservatives like Mike Pompeo, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Steve Bannon. Join Gettr. It's in the App Store, the Google Play Store, and at Gettr.com. Longer posts, longer videos, sharper and clearer pictures, and unlike the Silicon Valley oligarchs, Gettr will never sell your data. Send a message today, join Gettr. It's time to cancel culture. Thank you for returning. If he weren't such a disgrace, I'd feel sorry for him. If his whole career wasn't such a disgrace, selling his office over and over again, his son telling us that 50% goes to dad for 30 years, I'd feel sorry for him. But we don't have a press that's worth anything now. We don't have the bold, free press that a vital democracy requires. Our founding fathers always said democracy where we don't have a free press and where we have an uneducated electorate could easily become a tyranny. And we sure don't have a fourth estate now. What we have is a echo chamber for the Democrat Party, and actually part of a group along with big tech and some of the big corporations that have gotten together to use whatever power they have, private or public, to impose on us the biggest censorship that we've ever had. We've never had this kind of censorship before. Not in a country that's built on the right of free speech, the right of freedom of religion. But we can change this. They haven't taken away yet the mechanisms for doing it. They tried very hard with that voting bill, which was basically every fraudulent device imaginable put in there, including, sending in paper ballots without identification, allowing illegals to vote, registering on the same day, harvesting votes. Every single fraudulent trick they've ever used was going to be made legal. And luckily, so far, it's been held up, because that was an attempt to make us a one-party state, one-party government. But we're not there yet. We're not without our resources to return ourselves to where we used to be, which was the greatest nation on earth. We're not a country of systemic racists. That's a calumny by our president. It's hard to judge what's going on in his brain, given the fact that you watched that performance the other night, and it's like a disgrace. But does he realize when he says that America is systemically racist, he's saying that almost the whole country is racist, which makes the country he's leading an evil country? He's like putting his country under attack, and then it gets picked up and quoted back to him by our adversaries. We're not a systemically racist country. That's a bunch of propaganda. Do we have issues and problems? Of course. Are they equivalent to or less than most other countries? Yes. What we really have to get back to is the Lincoln definition of America. We're not a government made up of race, religion, common ethnicity. We're a country made up of people who agree on ideas and ideals. That's a very, very unusual country. And the ideals are very, very lofty ideals. Very, very lofty ideals. And how does it contrast with where we're headed now? Where we're headed right now, the conception of Bernie Sanders, AOC, Biden, the Bidenistas, whoever these people are that are instructing him and telling him what to do, it's quite clear that they are putting together, both by legislation and dictate and mandate, the strongest central government this country has ever had, much of it clearly in violation of our Constitution. You would sum up, in distinguishing it from our founding fathers and our framers, this would be if they were beginning the if they were writing the beginning document, it would say "we the government," or if they were giving the Gettysburg Address, it would be, of the government, for the government, and by the government. Parents out of education, government decides. Let's make much more people dependent. Get paid by the government. Don't work. We go on and on and on. Socialized medicine. We'll take care of you, cradle to grave. Oh, by the way, illegals, come on in. We don't care if you're illegal. We don't even care if you have COVID. He sent Biden on those private planes. We don't even know how many people he sent all around the country to infect us. And meanwhile, he hypocritically wants to mandate, and his governors want to mandate, basically the loss of our police force, teachers. We're talking about 1.7 million illegals have been apprehended this year. 1.7 million. We don't have a border. Face it, Biden has done away with our border. And they're not coming in because this has been a breakdown over time. They tell you, when you interview them, they tell you why they're coming in. Biden told them they could come in. And he said, if you come in, not only will you get welfare, you get health care. And you'll get your back COVID money, which was distributed to them a few months ago. Why wouldn't they come in large numbers like they did at Bidensville? And sure, they're sending a few back, but nothing in comparison to the people that are being sent by private plane all throughout the country. So, yeah, we are now headed for that kind of government. What we have to reestablish is, in the words of the much maligned, unfairly maligned Thomas Jefferson, who built the idea of freedom and liberty into the soul of America, created the poetry of liberty, not only for us, but for people all over the world. And of course, he had failings. But if he hadn't written those words, I don't know where we'd be today. We got to go back to we the people. And we've got to go back to the definition of Lincoln, of the people, for the people, and by the people. And the definition of a good American is if we agree on the central principles of a democracy given to us by God, not man. Democracy not given to us by government. But the Democrat Party, my gosh, it's gone so far in the direction of government control that I fear that we're pretty close to where Marxism, kind of wants us. The recent statement of the Democrat candidate in Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, the sleazebag who was selling the Lincoln bedroom for campaign contributions. Wow. How did that not end his career? He takes government property and he gets $100,000 for political contributions, selling government property, basically using the Lincoln bedroom as a Marriott, but a Marriott to fund the Clinton. I mean, that's where it started to rot, the Democrat Party with the Clintons. Small-time grifters who then started selling the Lincoln bedroom, hundreds of times, and then, sold out America for hundreds of millions to Russia, to China. But here, without even blinking an eyelash, this major Democrat, this sleazebag from way back, kind of a retread, says, as if we all believe this, right? I think all Democrats believe this. Parents should have no role in education. What? Parents should have no role in education? That's right out of Marx. You know why? So the state can brainwash your children. That's why. Well, that's where we are. And that's why we're going to have to stand in the way of this express train to Marxism, and we're going to have to turn it around. This would be a good time to take a pause. I accomplished a lot in 2020, exposing the truth, establishing the relationship with you, working tirelessly for America. And I came to know the work and value of the people at American Hartford Gold. You see, you buy gold not only for what you know, but you buy gold for what you don't know. American Hartford Gold is the company you can trust when it comes to buying gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA. In the precious metals industry, they are the highest rated firm in our country with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Give them a call and tell them Rudy sent you. And be sure to ask them what I bought. And if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Folks, these are uncertain times. The one thing you can count on to protect what you have worked so hard for is physical gold and silver. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 833-GOLD-777. That's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Again, that's 833-GOLD-777, or text Rudy to 65532. You know, our rights are in grave jeopardy. I've at other times outlined them and went over them, and I think you'll remember them. The primary ones being our right of free speech, our right of freedom of religion, our due process of law with a double standard. But some of that we took too easily. You know, it all started, it didn't all start, it all reached a crescendo, I believe, with the pandemic. And I remember the beginning of the pandemic when they decided, the Democrat governors decided people couldn't go to church. And no accommodation was made for distancing or masks or outdoor services. And then when they started to reopen, the churches weren't reopened. The liquor stores were. In fact, the liquor stores remained open all the time as a necessity. What kind of diminution of the First Amendment is it that liquor stores and strip parlors are opened earlier than and get greater deference in terms of space than churches, and are considered more very necessary services? And worshiping God is not a necessary service. You know, whether you believe it is a necessary service or not, the Constitution makes it one. The Constitution doesn't say, you know, you have the right to the free exercise of buying liquor. You have a right to the free exercise of going to porn shops or strip places. It does say right there on the top of the First Amendment, you have a sacred right to freely exercise your religion, and the government cannot interfere with it. Tell me it doesn't get priority over liquor stores and strip joints. Not in the minds of present Democrats who are well on the road to Marxism, because the two primary things Marx wants to knock out of the way so he can enforce an unnatural form of government and economy on you. Socialism is completely contrary to human nature. The reason it goes down in flames eventually with violence is because it's so contrary to human nature. Human beings eventually, maybe almost at the beginning, rebel against it. The core principle is contrary to human nature. It can only be done with force, with the kind of government we're moving to now, government by mandate, government by dictate. Government by dictate is a dictatorship. A democracy, a republic with guaranteed human rights, is governed by persuasion, by open argument on both sides, and by an educated electorate. That's our biggest protection, that will make wise choices and not be undermined by manipulation, as we are now. So we're far along, no question about it. We are far along on the road to Marxism, the express train to Marxism, but we haven't gone to the station yet. And I know we're all looking toward 2022 and 2024. Now, with these polls showing Biden in such distress, the Democrat Party in such distress, with so many crises that seem totally beyond their capacity, and with a president who, I don't know if he's going to make it. Now, you think of the difference between Biden a year ago and Biden now. Go take out a few tapes of Biden 5 years ago and Biden now, and then extrapolate that, or project that into another year from now, when we get to the 2022 elections, or beyond that. And then think about the bench. Kamala, even more unpopular than Biden-Harris, I think, or is he more unpopular? Whatever it is, I mean, you haven't seen them together in months. Remember they used to be like a tag team? Now they don't want to, but they're afraid they're going to drag each other down. But just in case you think that McAuliffe idea of, of the government, by the government, and for the government is just McAuliffe, or a couple of Marxists or radicals or communists or whatever, socialists. Nobody in the Democrat Party has objected to what McAuliffe said. Just the opposite. They've gone there and supported him, including our challenged president. And the former president endorsed it with his statement the other day that these are trifling, these are trifling little issues. I mean, why are we spending time on these trifling little issues? Trifling little issues like disregarding the sexual attack on a young girl by someone pretending to be a girl in the bathroom and attacking her, and whose father was arrested instead of the rapist. I mean, that's not a conjecture. That kid was convicted. Not only was he convicted, the school board covered it up. When the father came to complain about what had troubled him for some time and troubles many people, that under the guise of transgender whatever, biological males can go into the female bathroom, and now we had a sexual attack there. How would you feel if you were that father? Would you feel that our government had become wacky? Males walking into female bathrooms? Or let's say individuals with the plumbing of a male walking into a female bathroom? And his daughter, his young daughter, being attacked? He came to the school board meeting. Yes, he was emotional. He didn't hit anybody. He didn't attack anybody. This is the example our so-called attorney general used that was given to him by the hack organization of school boards. It turns out the parent gets arrested. It's used as the only example, actually, of some kind of violence which justified this letter to the president describing parents as, verging on domestic terrorists, and the Patriot Act should be used. And then a letter back in record time from the Attorney General saying, oh, yes. Oh, National Board of School, absolutely. Yes. Education industry, we'll do what you want. Parents are domestic terrorists, and we'll use the Patriot Act, and we'll get those parents. And we got an example there of that guy. And it turns out the wrongdoers are the school board and the superintendent who covered up sexual assault on one of their students. Should they be fired? You're damn right they should be fired. We'll be back in just a moment. How much equity do you have in your home? 50,000? 100,000? More? Cybercrime experts are alerting homeowners that the more equity you have, the greater the chance foreign and domestic criminals will come after you. Title theft is one of the fastest growing crimes. Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection, is alerting homeowners they could already be a victim and not know it. Here's how it goes down. First, cyber thieves search hundreds of public databases for high equity homes. Next, they pull your home's title that's online. They forge your signature stating you sold your home, and they take out loans using your equity. You're not covered by insurance, your bank, or common identity theft programs. Protect your most valuable asset. Register your address now to see if you're already a victim and receive a complete title history of your home. A $100 value free. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Thank you for returning. But instead, the woman who was behind all of this, who should be fired, particularly for using as an example of parents out of control, a school board that was out of control in turning its back and covering up sexual assault. What about rights of women? They don't count, right? Violet Garcia was the architect of this. She not only wasn't fired, she's been promoted and given a position in the administration just in the last 2 days. Payoff. They're paying her off. You tell me this administration is not corrupt? Oh, man, it leaves them all in the dust. All in the dust. So, where does that leave us? The children are being taught in schools all over America, and Virginia and Loudoun County is kind of the epicenter of it. They're being questioned about their gender. They're being encouraged to sexualize, well before puberty. They're being taught that America was founded as an evil country. It was founded by an evil man, and it was established legally by evil people, and that it's come down to us. And even now, all whites are racist, whether we know it or not. So if I tell you I'm not a racist, that proves I'm a racist, because it shows that I don't know that I'm a racist. You follow that logic? That's Marxist logic, which is, I guess best described in 1984 by Orwell as doublespeak. They make words mean whatever they want it to mean. White supremacy now means that you're opposed to critical race theory. You don't want your children taught that white people are evil. You're opposed to questioning a 5 or 6 year old about their gender. Now you're a white supremacist. That's what I mean. This is 1984 double speak. But I don't want to leave you without hope. There's a lot of hope. And I'm supposed to answer for you the question, what are we going to do about it? What should you do about it? Well, I think they went, as these people do, these Marxists and socialists, and they always do it. They go too far. They go too far. They went too far. Here, they went too far in engaging the parents of the United States. And they're engaging the families that, they're not going to give you an inch on your corrupting their children. And you don't have much of a basis to do it, you education industry, because on the basics of education, you're a disgraceful failure. The once best public school system in the world now ranks in the high 20s and 30s and 40s in almost everything. Math, science were disgraceful. You don't teach anymore. Even literature. You don't teach history. You teach some fictionalized racist account of the world. You listen to people being questioned, young people being questioned. They don't even know who the presidents are. Geography, my goodness. They don't get taught. Instead, what they're taught is, we were founded to be a slave country, where our economic system is unfair. It's a form of slavery. Capitalism is evil. Free enterprise is evil. Only thing that'll save us is socialism and communism. Well, they were getting away with it. They're getting away with it until McAuliffe's statement. McAuliffe's statement kind of crystallized the whole thing and told us where we are. Parents should have no role in education. So how do we come back now? Well, I think they've gone so far that it reminds me of the words of Admiral Yamamoto, or attributed to Admiral Yamamoto, in the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. We don't know if Yamamoto actually said this, but the first movie that I can find that used it was Tora, Tora, Tora. And then it was used in one way or another in Pearl Harbor and also in Midway, although relating to the Battle of Midway. But the original statement was about the attack on Pearl Harbor. And it had been a great success in many ways. And Yamamoto said, well, let's listen to what he said.
眠れる巨人を起こし、奮い立たせる結果を招いたも同然である。
I would say that just like the great American nation, the nation that will send their young men and women to liberate others and ask for nothing, as the late Colin Powell once said, except a place to bury our dead. Exceptional nation. Just like they awoke that sleeping giant. The Marxists, the progressives, the Bidenistas, the Obamaistas have awakened the sleeping giant of the American parent. And boy, they are fighting back. And that becomes our model, doesn't it? We're not gonna take this all back in one day or one action, but we're gonna take it back from the bottom up. We're gonna start with the family, which they're trying to destroy, and the school boards that they've infiltrated. We're gonna take them back, and the city councils and county legislatures and county executives and mayors. Then we're going to move on to the urban mayors, the Democrats who are running cities now that are overrun by record violence. A place like Chicago, a disgrace, 50 years of Democrat rule. And the question on a weekend is it 30 shot or 100 shot? Is it 4 dead or 20 dead? And about 80% of those are young African Americans. And Black Lives Matter doesn't give a damn. Neither does anybody else except us. That was the focus of what I did when I reduced crime in New York. It was to reduce homicide by 65%. 70 to 80% of the beneficiaries of that were young African Americans. I'm very proud of that. They don't care. The only black lives they care about are the ones they can exploit to try to make the false point that we're a racist country. So we're gonna take back from the bottom up the way the parents are fighting back. Reconstitute the nuclear family that they want to destroy in the name of communism and Marxism, and that's a big, big agenda item for the Black Lives Matter, almost as big as killing police. You say, why do I say that? Because at every single rally, which always turns violent, by the way, they uniformly chant, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Equal, kill police. And the Major League Baseball supports them. The NBA supports them. Major American companies and financial institutions supports cop killers. I don't care if their slogan is a slogan you could agree with, Black Lives Matter. You might want to amend it a bit, but okay, that's acceptable. It's the organization. Organization campaigns for murder. And they've been successful. While they say that white supremacy is the biggest danger to our country, it wasn't white supremacists who last year killed 28 people in riot after riot after riot after riot, sent hundreds of police officers to the hospital, hundreds of civilians, caused billions of dollars worth of damage to small businesses, ran around the country yelling for the killing of police officers, and succeeded in creating a kind of epidemic of killing police. It wasn't white supremacists who did that. It was the Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And what has Biden said about that? They're an idea. Pathetic. No wonder we have the violence that we have in Democrat cities with a poor excuse for a president like that. But Yamamoto, whether he said it or not, he was right about the Second World War, and he's going to turn out You're going to turn out to be right about the parents. They just hit the wrong nerve. Here's the quote. I love it. I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him. Now we'd say him and her. Got to get the pronouns right? And fill him and her with a terrible resolve. That's the resolve you see. Those are the parents you see. They're not domestic terrorists. They're good, loving parents who believe that they should have more to say about their child than a government apparatchik. Just ask yourself, who loves the child more? The parent or the government bureaucrat who, the public unions stayed out of work for 2 years. I know them. I used to negotiate with them. They'd stay out of work for good if they could. They don't work much anyway. And their results are disgraceful. Are there good teachers? Absolutely. Are there great teachers? Absolutely. Are they rewarded? No. Who prevents rewarding the good teachers? The Communist Union. I tried very, very hard to pay good teachers more than average teachers so I could encourage good teachers not to leave for the private schools and the parochial schools and the charter schools. And they fought me every inch of the way. And they had control of the state legislature. You cannot do any form of accountability in education. The union, therefore, descends to the common denominator. Who do they represent? They represent the failing teacher. They represent the teacher you can't fire because the teacher hasn't shown any progress in 20 years. You can't even fire the teacher who's a sexual predator without a trial that takes about 4 years. I figured out how to fire them by getting them prosecuted and stuck in prison, and then I'd have to send them their check in prison until I could complete the long and arduous protection set up by the Communist Teachers Union. Make no mistake about it, in our decrepit, falling apart Democrat cities, the public education system has nothing to do with the education of the children. It's a job protection system for the people who are part of it. The teachers, the unbelievable multiples of bureaucrats and apparatchiks, and gosh almighty, they challenge anything the Soviet Union or East Germany had in government agencies with useless apparatchiks. They want those people to make the decisions about your child's education. That's why, we have these situations where we have many, many children now at 5, 6, 7, 8 asked, do you know what your gender is? They're being manipulated. And if the child seems like the parent might not agree with it, they actually are authorized not to tell the parent. This has got to be changed. Virginia is the epicenter of it. Virginia is the epicenter of it because of what happened in Loudoun County and what happened with this rape and the embarrassment of using that as a way of trying to get parents denominated as domestic terrorists and prosecuted under the Patriot Act when it turns out that it was the school board that were the criminals. They were criminally negligent. So, for you people in Virginia, not too late to get involved in that election and make sure that you don't elect McAuliffe, who has already sold out your kids to the government apparatchiks. He's sold out everything else too. And stay involved in New Jersey. We talked about that last week, where you've got a governor. The taxes are so damn high there, it might as well be redistribution of wealth in a socialist communist country. Probably the highest in the country. When you combine the New Jersey tax with the federal tax, people in New Jersey are junior partners in their wages. The government's taking more from them. And then the governor, arrogant, stupid, whatever he is, tells them all, as we talked about last week, he tells them all if they want to leave, if they don't like the tax, they can go. And what do? They go. And what happens? So let's say they pretty much follow the federal rate. 62% of Americans last year didn't pay any federal tax. Let's assume the same thing is true in New Jersey. So by chasing out the people who paid, well, this year it'll be 70%. And eventually we'll be down to about 20% of the population is working, and the other 80% is on welfare, COVID payments, health care, bonus payments, child welfare, $8,000 to take care of your kids. You pay attention to the elections now. I know the three big ones: Virginia, New Jersey, New York. I remember the great day in 1993 when I was elected mayor, along with Republicans winning in Virginia and in New Jersey. And Newt Gingrich would tell you that was the beginning of the revolution. We hadn't had the House in 2,000 years. And next election, we kicked the living daylights out of Clinton. We got to do that to save our country now. This isn't just game politics now. This is to save the First Amendment and save the right to defend ourselves, and save our due process system, and save equal justice, and stop them from trying to put Republicans in jail and letting Democrats commit crimes at the highest levels of government and take millions illegally. That's all at stake and more. Most importantly, the future of our children is at stake, who they've now declared war against the parents and the children. And that was the final straw. It's going to prove to be the straw that broke the camel's back, to use another one of the analogies, and it's also going to prove to be the one step too far. Nothing like good parents fighting honestly and forthrightly for the protection of their children, and to give their children what they had: a free country, a country where a president doesn't dictate, he persuades, a country where governors don't become petty little dictators. And we need papers. Watch too many movies of the Second World War when people were asked for their papers. Where are your papers? It's a tragedy what's happened to us. But that should just give us more and more incentive to fight back. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It requires in every generation courage to preserve liberty and freedom. And if you're called upon to take some of this canceling or attack or whatever else they like to do to you, it'll be temporary. We'll get through it because we're on the right side. We're on the right side of history, and we're on the right side because there is right and wrong. Well, we'll be back in a few days with another commentary on these very, very important issues. We're in the first stage of this battle to win our country back, and we're making progress. We're further along than I thought we would be, given the horrendous mistakes of the other side. Let's hope they don't make as many between now and Election Day. We got enough now, because it really is starting to take lives and destroy lives. And I just keep getting haunted by the 13 that were killed in Afghanistan. Didn't have to die, except for Biden. That's what you did when you elected him. And I knew you were going to do it. I knew that would happen, because I've known for years how stupid he is. I didn't know how crooked he was until recently. Okay. Get involved in the elections. And when they're over, I'm going to come back to you with a proposal that we establish I don't know, we can call it a network, we can call it a club, we could call it an organization, we can call it anything, of people that communicate with us, and we'll communicate back to you based on your inclinations, how you can be part of preserving our way of life and our form of government. We'll save that for after the election, when the clutter of that's out of the way. But I've been formulating it for some time, and I look forward to presenting it to you next week or the week after. God bless you. Make sure you vote, and God bless America.